Hailing from the backwoods of New Jersey, welcome to the Jersey Guys Music Podcast, where we feature in-depth music discussions and interviews with special guests from the worlds of hard rock, heavy metal, and AOR music. So settle in and crank it up. Now, here are your hosts, the Jersey Guys themselves, Tom and Mark.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Jersey Guys podcast. I'm Mark Ballo here with my co-host Tom Coyne. Joining us today is a guy from an 80s metal band that this is a band that they've been talked about as compared to Judas Priest back in the early days, but this is a band that had Metallica open for them back in the day. Please welcome to the show Mark Behn from the band Malice. Mark, welcome.
Hey there. How's it going? Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for spending some time with us tonight and doing a little trip down memory lane. This guy over here, which you see he's got the shirt on, big fan, and I'm going to let him kind of jump in and start off with stuff with you.
So, Mark, if you could tell us how the band originally came together, like the original formation of the classic lineup and how the band got signed and the beginnings.
Pete Laufman, the drummer, the original drummer for Malice, and myself were playing in a band in Portland, Oregon called Fire Eye. We'd been doing the club circuit, and we were professional musicians. We were touring Oregon, Washington, Idaho. There was a good, healthy music scene up there then. And whilst we were doing that, I had known Mick from previous bands when I was younger. And Jay, of course, was one of the local musicians around too. And Jay approached us and Mick they had a project down here with Brian Slagle, and it was going to be this compilation album called Metal Massacre. And they asked both Pete and I to play and do our bass and drums respectively. So we heard the demo tapes that Mick had recorded. And so Pete and I wrote our drum bass parts, and one night we went into a local Portland studio and tracked it. I hadn't met James or anything, but they said, "Oh, we got this great singer," and he had a pretty good sound on the demo. So we recorded our parts, and as we were leaving, James was coming in to record his part. So that's the first time I met James. And it was just brief, hey, how's it going? Good luck kind of thing, So Pete and I both went back to our lives with Fire Eye. We were a club band. We were playing 5 nights a week, like I said, all over. And so about 2 months later, Mick calls and says, "Hey, I got some albums for you, And I said, "Come on over to the house." So we come over to the house, and, it's pretty impressive, is never having any product.
Yeah.
At that time of my life, and there it is, an album. It says Metal Massacre is silver, and other bands on there were Metallica and Rat, I believe. There were Bitch was on there, a few others, and it was really cool listening to it. And wow, here it is, a product for the first time. So that was very impressive. And then Jay was really pushing the fact that, listen, if we move down to LA, we'll get to maybe achieve that elusive record deal that bands in Portland, Oregon don't really get to have, access to. And so, with much contemplation and a lot of emotion, we decided to leave Fire Eye, because Fire Eye was a good gig. It was we were playing steadily, and it was fun, and we were playing full houses all the time. So we then moved to LA, and that was the start of actually Malice is going to be.
Yeah. Now, the band, I listened to the early stuff, and obviously, like I mentioned in the intro, you can compare the band on the first album, especially to like Judas Priest sound. But even going forward with the band and on the subsequent material you guys did, I hear a little bit of like other European metal band stuff, a little bit of like Saxon, maybe some Accept. Is that the European metal bands that you guys were influenced by?
Yeah, I mean, we got the Priest comparisons obviously because of some, just aesthetics that there's Jay with blonde hair, and,
Mm,
and Mick with his dark hair. And so you kind of go, well, and James with his high voice and such. But, for me, and Cliff, we always focused on rhythmic bands with great rhythm sections. I was a big Sabbath, Zeppelin, The Who. The list goes on and on and on of good rhythm sections, and Priest. With all due respect, I liked a little bit more movement in there. Deep Purple, another good rhythm section.
mm,
Um, so at first I took I took a little issue with the Priest comparisons because I didn't want to be like them,
mm.
and I didn't think we were writing like them. But certainly the songs I brought to the band weren't Priest oriented. However, you could listen to Air Attack and go wrong.
Right.
So listener decide. But
Yeah.
we were influenced by the European hard rock heavy metal bands for sure.
Mm,
Uh, uh, and we had a wide range of tastes and such too.
yeah.
Well, I used to always say it was Judas Priest-like with a much busier bass player.
Oh yeah. Well, there you go. You're speaking to me there, Tom. Yeah. I liked Priest a lot too. In fact, a little sidebar for a Priest story. Before Fire Eye, I was in a band called Jade with Mick, and Judas Priest and UFO were in Portland for a gig, and Mick had gone to a record signing thing at a music store and talked to Glenn and said, "Hey, listen, we have a warehouse where all our gear's set up and everything. We practice there. And you want to come over and jam after the show or something like this?" And Glenn says, "Yeah, maybe." So anyway, we all go to the Priest show because it's UFO was headlining and Priest was opening.
Wow.
Good show, yeah, it was a good show. And we finished the gig, and then we went to the warehouse, which was near the concert hall downtown Portland. And we hung out for a few hours. It didn't seem like anything was going to happen. And then lo and behold, limousines pull up, and Glenn gets out with Paul Chapman, who's the guitar player for
Wow.
you at the time. And they come in, and we go, "Oh my God, here it is!" And Glenn's, they're all half liquored up. It's like, "Ah, let's play." And he plays, and we're going, "Oh man, okay, what Priest songs do you want to do?" And he goes, "Oh no, 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 we're not doing any Priest." We're going, "Holy shit, we know about 100 Priest songs."
Right.
And he's going anything but that. He's wanting to play Chuck Berry and all kind of stuff. We're going,
Nice.
"You guys, we're playing Johnny Be Good with you." And I going, okay, at least we're playing with Glenn Tipton. This is fun. And
Yeah.
so I think I sent you one of the pictures there that somebody had taken while we were jamming with Glenn Tipton. So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
that was funny. Now, if I can say, I could segue that to another story that tags onto it, is that years later, fast forward, Malice is playing in Berlin, and we had just finished the gig, and we're backstage, and we had an interpreter with us. His name was Rolf, and he had gone through Germany with us, and wonderful guy, and was very helpful getting us to explain things. And Rolf comes up and he goes, "Hey, there's some guys that have a studio and they want you and Mick to come play." And Mick and I are looking at each other going, "Wow, this came full circle, didn't it?"
Hmm.
And they go, they want you to come play at their studio." And we're going, "Let's go." So we go in this caravan driving through Berlin. And I'm going to look at Mick going, "If they're kidnapping us, we're dead because we're going to never find our way back." We're going through late night, Berlin, going through we come to this gigantic industrial building and go up the fifth floor on this in this warehouse kind of thing. We walk in, there's probably 50, 60 guys there, all the gears set up, and we're going, "Wow, how fun is this?" They go, "Let's play some Malice." And we go,
Really?
"Oh, Malice, anything but Malice." But at the same time, we went, "You know what? I'll humor you on that one. Let's play some Malice." So we played some Malice with them, just because we said, "No, let's play some Judas Priest."
Yeah. That's cool.
So how did you come about getting your deal, your record deal for that first album in the beginning?
When we first moved to LA, Jay had made contact with Michael Wagner, the producer,
Famous producer. Yeah.
Yeah, he was doing some Dawkins stuff at the time. Well, in Redondo Beach, there's a really funny music scene because Motley lived there, Rat lived there, Dawkins lived there, and we were there. And we called it was a condo in Redondo or the Malice Palace, take your pick. And so we had been to Michael Wagner and he played him some of our demo stuff, and he goes, "Oh yeah, come on, just pay for the studio time, and I'll do a 5-song demo for you." So we went in and to Total Access Studios, and I was in Redondo Beach,
Sure. Yeah.
and we did Air Attack, Gods of Thunder, Stellar Masters, Tarot Dealer, and one other one in there. And we recorded him. Michael did, he's a phenomenal producer, Michael is, and recorded it. Well, then Jay turned it into a couple of local radio stations, which was KMET and KLOS. They were pretty big radio stations, but they started doing this thing called local licks, where they were playing songs from local bands. Well, I think Gods of Thunder was in there, and it got into heavy rotation, and then calls were going, and just going like crazy. And we're going, oh my God, this is exploding. Somehow the tape made it across the Atlantic and got to Europe and such, and just bootlegged the hell out of. And so, we were getting a lot of attention. Well, it was pretty tough to manage at that time. So we decided, hey, it's probably got to do some management, hire management, because management came in and they were saying, oh, we're getting so much press and so much, we got the cover of Kerrang magazine before we were signed. We didn't have any.
Really?
Yeah. Jay's on the cover. He's got a top hat on, and Malice in Wonderland, I think what they called it. So, we had some management come in, and they, with a lot of flattery, got our attention. And they're saying, we were getting at the time, we were getting an offer from Metal Blade Records to, hey, put Michael Wagner, put 11 songs together, let's do the full LP. And management was telling us, hey, listen, that's the offer, but you'll be, tour support's going to be tough. Distribution's going to be tough. We need to go for the big heavy hitters, Warner Brothers, Electric, I think at the time, Atlantic, all these, they were selling us on that. And, we were 20 something kids, we didn't have a lot of business sense about us. We liked the bigger deal. It sounded good. In retrospect, we would have been the big fish in the little pond with Metal Blade, and they probably would have put a lot of resources to try to work us out.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the real fault. The fault was that by going for the major label, we delayed release for about 2 to 3 years.
Oh, wow.
That we missed this huge wave that was happening that we could have been on, along with Quiet Riot and all these other ones. Then our first album came out was 85. So we by going with the bigger labels, that was it. Now you ask, how did it happen? Well, we did this thing where we were playing about 1 or 2 gigs a month, and they were getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and things were going really well. We were writing a lot of songs. Well, then management said, listen, we're gonna start showcasing for these things. So we go into these sound studios, with 4 guys in the dark back there. You don't see them, hey.
Yeah.
I heard Clive Davis was one of them, and there's all these different guys that came to see us. So we would get up and play 3 songs, and then management came back, oh, you guys did a great job, we're gonna go talk to them, and we never knew what would happen. So then after a period of time, we heard Paul Cooper was coming to see us at the Starlight Amphitheater in Burbank, and we did a show there with Armored Saint and a few other bands that were on the bill that night. But we had the prime slot. It was like a 9:30 slot, and it was a beautiful outdoor venue, and we had a real good gig. It was a real good gig. And afterwards, we're in the backstage area, and management comes down and says, here's Paul Cooper from Atlantic Records. And he says, he was the VP at the time. And he said, hi, guys, welcome to Atlantic Records, So we think, oh, here we go, Oh my God, this giant monolith of a record company,
Yeah, sure.
And then we were the little fish in the big pond.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phil Collins and Yes, and
Yeah.
coming out, So then probably the biggest problem was we made every mistake you could make on the first album because we didn't have any power and we didn't know that when the record company said, "Oh, we don't like Michael Wagner," and we're going, "What? We did this with Michael Wagner. That's how you guys heard of us, right?"
Yeah.
And they had some issue with him. I don't know what it was, but they denied it, and we're going, "Well, that was the plan." And management saying, "No, we got to go this way." And then so they forced the producer down our throat, and therefore the disjointed first album, and also delayed because long story with all those, but there was a delay of probably a year and a half that the product could have been out there sooner.
Wow.
So that material was actually recorded more like in later '83.
Yes.
Okay, I never knew that.
Those songs, in fact, we went back in and recorded them all with Ashley Howe and Dwayne Behrens was the producer. I mean, he was the engineer. And we went back and recorded them and turned them into the record company. And they said, "Oh, we like the other versions better." Well, that's Michael Wagner.
Yeah.
So
the Michael Wagner stuff is not what ended up on the release.
yes, it did.
It did.
Yes, but it had to be remixed. And we brought Michael in to fix it in the mix because the other songs were recorded differently and it just didn't sound the same as Michael did. So Michael had to come in and try to make it all sound similar. Well, I think he took some of the fidelity out of his version and tried to make something out of the other version. And so it just kind of, for me, it doesn't have the same flow. Now, we were comforted by the fact, well, when we play this live, it's got all the balls and all the meat that it needs to have. On the album, I thought it fell a little short.
So it's kind of a hybrid of the two releases.
Yeah. If you can say hybrid,
Yeah.
or low bred.
Yeah.
It was a struggle to try to make it, so to be cohesive because they sounded so different. Dwayne Behrens' technique was different than Michael's, and Michael had the wall of guitars, and it was a bit cleaner.
Well, it's strange because Michael went on to do like Skid Row. They were on Atlantic, right? So it's like they had such a problem with him at your time, but then
believe me, we were all scratching our heads when that was happening, going, what was the deal? And in fact, I've heard that Sebastian liked the Malice product so much that's why he was pushing for Michael.
Oh, wow.
And then they worked together. So Michael's a super guy and a great producer.
Yeah.
So who did Atlantic hook you guys up with on the first tour that you did with them?
The first tour?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. We were out with Alice Cooper, many different ones, and kind of comes and goes because we were kind of doing that. And then we were doing our own shows out there. We moved to New York and lived there for a year while we were touring on the first album because management thought it would be better for us to be closer to the record company that had the power, because LA part of Atlantic was for some reason not able to get things done. So they didn't really hook us up with many. Atlantic themselves didn't hook us up with many. They did give us tour support, but they weren't instrumental in pairing us with bands. Throughout time, we did like I said, Alice Cooper. We were out with Nazareth for quite a time, but that was on the second album. So we did a lot of our own stuff, and then we just bump in with other acts. So
you sign with a big label like Atlantic, and they kind of leave you hanging in the dust with tour
well put.
support. Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
There was some really frustrating times. We had a couple more than a handful where we would show up at a record store to sign albums. That's because we would play in the town, York, Pennsylvania, what have you. And we would go to this record store, and the owner came out and goes, "Atlantic didn't send enough records. I got 10 records and I got 150 songs out there." And so we're signing these little, whatever we can sign.
the album flats or
That's
something.
incredible.
The flats. We had the flats. And
Wow.
we just, this is ridiculous,
Wow.
And we couldn't make a big sting about it because, hell, we were the little fish,
Yeah.
So that happened more than a couple of times, and it was pretty frustrating. We kind of came away going, God, we're doing all this work out here, man. You guys can't even get some couple of boxes of albums out
Right.
there.
Yeah.
So pretty frustrating.
So was this a multi-album deal?
It was supposed to be, I think it was a 5 album deal.
5 album.
Yeah.
So the second album, License to Kill, obviously that's the album that pretty much broke you guys, as everybody that was into metal at that time knew that album. If you could tell us a little bit about the recording process, because it's kind of a different beast from I think that album you guys kind of took on your own signature sound and left a lot of the Judas Priest-isms behind.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
It's very fair to say. It started with Max Norman was really high on our checklist of guys we wanted to produce the next album. We really love the Ozzy stuff. I'm surprised that Bob didn't say more about that, because I know how instrumental Max is with
Yes.
production. But aside from that, so he was big on our list, and we had sent him some demos that we had done, and he responded right back very favorably, and Atlantic was given the, yeah, go ahead, so he came in and said, let's rent a sound stage, a bigger hall. We're not going to, do your writing in a garage or basement or a small studio. Let's get something that has some air to it, So we rented a sound stage that had, some echo to it. And it was good. And we set the whole band up in a live type of setting. So that was really positive right off the bat. We're going, oh, wow, this is different. He kind of expanded our minds on that. And so when we started playing, you realize the movement it had with the movement the music had with a bigger arena. And so we started thinking like that, playing in bigger places. And, a lot of times you can have, simple movements like Vigilante, for instance, that well, that in a big hall just gets the whole thing bouncing. So that was really productive for us to have that venue that we wrote in. And then Max was also very instrumental in his structure. He was really good with structure and things. And sometimes he'd say, hey, just if you guys got a couple ideas, throw the couple ideas out and we'll just sit here and piece it together. He had a real good ear for that. And for instance, Sinister Double, one of my favorite songs that we did, we wrote that song in about, I want to say 10 minutes or so.
Really? Wow.
Mick had this idea, and he was playing it a different way. He wasn't playing it with the gallop that we ended up putting it to. And Max and I were sitting there going, hey, what if you played it like like that? And so he changed his feel, his rhythm to be that, but yet kept the same chording. And then the song just kind of came together real fast, and it was a boom, boom, and Cliff was up there, and boom, boom, we had all these parts. And then, it was just the title that came about, and we had this funny title we thought was Sinister Double. And I told James that, and he said, oh, I'll go with that. And so he went off and wrote Sinister Double, and there you go. So it was funny how sometimes that happens. And then other songs, we spent weeks on just trying to get this, I can't get the bridge part, So funny how
Sinister Double is one of those songs from that era that, if at least for myself and talking to other people, it has held up as like an anthem of, if you want to like go back to that era, and with the video and everything, it encompasses that time period to a T.
Funny. Yeah.
It's a phenomenal song.
Yeah, it was always so fun to play live, because it just, you're on that horse and you're riding it. It feels
great.
No,
it was just a great song. And that whole album had, a Chain Gang Woman was another great song, and License to Kill. It is really a classic metal album from that era. Did you guys, when you finished it, did you have an idea what you had laid down, or it really hadn't sunk in yet?
We were pretty proud of it, when we were doing some of the backing vocals in like License to Kill and Chain Gang. We brought in some of our buds, which was Dave Mustaine and Dave Elfson, the guys from Black and Blue, Tommy and Jamie, which we'd known from Portland.
Yeah.
And so we were real happy to bring them in to do some backing gang vocals. And it felt really good when they play it back, and everybody's in headphones and my buddies are looking at me going, holy shit, man, what do you guys got here? So we were feeling really good about it. So I think that was the first part of it. There was another instance that happened. We were at the Rainbow one night, and the owners put on the album, right? And they're playing it from top to bottom, sinister all the way through. And being in there was like, wow, this is great. There's John Entwistle's there, and I'm talking to John Entwistle. He's listening to the bass part, going, "Well, yeah, it's pretty cool the way you do the bounce on the Sinister Up." And I go, "Wow, who in a million years would have thought I'd have be reviewing our performance with a great like Mr. Entwistle?"
Wow.
So that was real fun to experience that.
And who came up with the album cover? Because I thought the album cover was as equally iconic as the music that was associated with it.
Funny, we had art director Barry Levine, and he had focused on it and gotten this one particular artist who had the work that he liked, and so he brought it to us. And I know we were kind of questioning. I was, and Cliff at the same time. We're going. Cliff coined the phrase, "Is it a Hare Krishna with an axe? What is it?" And so we always kind of said that, a Hare Krishna with an axe, But some people liked it a lot, and we were going, "Oh, whatever."
Yeah, no, I liked it a lot. I thought it just fit it was like one of those things that it just fit the music and the name of the band, and it was just a fit.
Yeah, well, certainly better than the Spinal Tap first album, which was Space.
Oh, that was totally Spinal Tap. Yeah, it was. Yeah, where did just going back to where did you get the name of the band from?
That was Jay and Mick, I think, originally came up with it. And when they proposed the product early on to Brian Slagle, I think he just said we're going to call it Malice, and so that was the first I heard of it, and. So it wasn't like a band discussion or any kind of meeting. Jay said, we're calling the project Malice, and away we went.
Which to me was a really like iconic, cool name for a heavy metal band of that time. And there's never been any nobody's ever used that before or after. It just kind of fits,
I think somebody has pirated it.
Really?
Some people sent me this thing. Hey, look at this Hesher band out of Minneapolis or something that just is using the name. We didn't pursue any kind of legal action. I just went, oh, whatever, it'll burn out.
Yeah.
Because it had like an undercurrent, cool metal, badass vibe to it. It wasn't overt in your face, but it was like Malice. It was a very cool. So the question I've always wanted to ask you is, you guys now were situated with a great album in '87. The scene was thriving.
Yeah.
Why was there not that third great album to follow it, like say in '89?
Yeah, well, when we were touring on the second album, we were out there. Like I said, we went out with Nazareth for quite a few days, and we were playing some big halls that were really good. And Nazareth was this perfect band for us to tour with, because they didn't have this giant ego thing where they would give you half the PA and half the lights like so many bands did. They said, oh, take the whole thing, So we got all the lighting, all the PA. So it really looked and sounded great. And so we loved playing with them. They were so confident in their crowd they had. But the crowd that was coming to see them, and then the crowd to us, it was kind of, one and the same. It all worked out. We weren't too heavy for the Nazareth crowd and or anything like that. So that was a real good mix. We got the movie deal in there while touring with Nazareth. We were playing Champaign, Illinois, and we heard that the producers were there doing a movie called Vice Versa.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked through a lot of scripts, and every one of them was such a cheeseball thing with band playing a small little club and stuff like that. Vice Versa had the deal where they go to a concert. We thought, well, that's what we want, with the image of the band to be bigger, and we also wanted to be able to use our name, not be the three guys from Washington kind of thing, or some whatever the stupid name they would come up with. So we we played and had a really good show at Champaign, and they came back and said, we're going to write you guys into this movie, you know. And License to Kill was doing pretty well. And we said, well, what song do you want to use? And they said, well, can we write a new one? Something that's especially for the movie. So we said, okay, note taken, and we'll get to that. So we were touring around a bit, and then we flew back to LA and recorded a few songs, Crazy in the Night being one of them, and a couple others, and then back out on the road. Out on that time, you know, we went out, we played in New York with Queensryche, and they had just finished Mindcrime. I don't know if it was out yet or if it was just getting ready to come out, but you know, we knew of them, Seattle band, Pacific Northwest, where we were kind of from. And I knew they were good, but I didn't know they were that good. And they came out and did Mindcrime. And, you know, I always thought as we held our own against other bands, you know, you play, it's not a super competition, but you want to hold your own, you know, you don't want to get blown out, you know. And we did, for the most part, we held our own, you know. And man, against Queensryche that night, though, I just remember going, wow. I felt like we were this big, and I was going, that band they got something going here. This Mindcrime thing, it might be good.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was kind of funny. But to get back to your answer there, we went to Europe then after with Slayer, because we had a chance to go with Manowar or Slayer. And we saw that Manowar was, you know, we were going to do a dual headlining thing. And the clubs we were going to be playing were, you know, that we were trying to raise above the club band thing. And, you know, with much ado, you know, Slayer was on this trajectory. And we said, oh, shit, look, they're playing, you know, 5,000, 10,000 seaters. Let's do that instead. Probably not the best option because their crowd is fanatical.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
They just hate whoever plays with Slayer.
Yeah, and it's a different style of music, really.
It's a different style of music, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, to get to your point, though, as we and this is incorrect information that's out there. I remember somebody saying, "Oh, they quit the tour because they weren't getting good reception." That wasn't the truth. The truth is that we were playing night after night after night, and James could not keep his voice in shape. He was having a real problem, and so we go out there and he couldn't sing. He was croaky and stuff. So we're down to doing instrumentals out there, and he's talking through the songs.
Wow.
This goes way back to when we were first writing together, and I remember being in the studio, and he's doing these, you know, the Hell Rider choruses, the Circle of Fire stuff, and I'm going, James, man, are you going to be able to do this if we're playing 5-6 nights a week? You know, I mean, this is fucking hard.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't you worry about me. Take care of yourself. Don't try to control me. And we're like, okay, all right. You know what you're doing. Well, it came to it, you know, and we could not keep up. And we were just, you know, we were falling flat. And we gotta jump, because we were supposed to continue the Slayer tour down to Paris. And we had about 15 more shows to do. And it was a big meltdown. It was a meltdown. And so we said, we got to jump off this, unfortunately. So we headed back to States and then LA. And that's when we had our, what's it called? The rapid disassembly, unplanned rapid disassembly. So, you know, then so that's the reason we didn't get to that next album, because we had material that we were working on. And I would have loved going back in with Max and do another album, because I think that he would have been the one definitely to take us to the next level. But everything just fell apart.
Now, this was an era where there were a lot of real good, especially in the States, a lot of really good singers. Was it in the cards to replace him, or that was not something that you guys wanted to do, or was in the cards?
It was in the cards. In fact, that was our first step, and management's first step. Like, hey, we got to get a new singer in here to replace James, and we'll keep on going. We got the record deal. Away we go. About that time, Jay announced that he was going to join Megadeth. And we said, well, okay, that was unforeseen also. So Cliff, Mick, and I were sitting there going, okay, well, we still have the record deal, right? let's just get a new singer and we'll roll through it. So we auditioned some guys, and Mark Whites was a singer that we had
Terrific singer.
Yeah, oh yeah, and he, boy, could he nail the James stuff. I mean, and he was younger,
I
so
bet.
we're going, oh, this is good. Well, he would come in and sing this stuff really well, and that was moving the right direction for a while. Um, in and through that, we realized that when writing new stuff, he wasn't as proficient as James was lyrically. And so we kind of thought, well, Mick is a great lyricist. So Mick was writing a lot of the lyrical parts, and then we were doing a lot of drums, musical construction. And in and through that, I think Atlantic went, you know what? This isn't the Malice we signed up for. And I think, they were backing off of it. And so we saw the whole thing, then that going away. So we then took yet another turn.
I guess because now you are missing two integral members, not
Correct.
just one.
Correct. And as much as we thought, oh, we'll just write some great music and keep it going, the record company didn't look at it the same way. So, and that all happened right about when the movie was going to come out. We're going, oh my God, we are blowing this huge opportunity. Furthermore, Judge Reinhold, the star of Vice Versa, was going to host MTV. And so Columbia Pictures who did the movie, contacted Atlantic and said, look, Judge Reinhold's going to host MTV on the release of the movie. Why don't you put together a Malice video so he can play it?
Right.
So Columbia Pictures put up half the money, and they had all this footage of us when we filmed the movie. They had backstage stuff and getting ready. So they had tons of material to work out. And at the last hour, Atlantic reneged and they said, no, we're not interested in it. And Columbia Pictures was like, what? This is your band.
Right.
And you're going to promote them with Judge Reinhold doing,
Right.
So Reinhold's playing, Megadeth videos or whatever. So we're just going, wow. So that was when we really knew that Atlantic was not on our side.
Right. Now there was a album that came out on Retrospect Records. I don't know. I'm assuming you're familiar with it. It was kind of a quasi, legit label. It has a load of demos and unreleased songs. Are those songs from all different periods, or it never gives you any information about it?
Yeah, most of it was pretty early, first album type stuff. It's songs that didn't make the cut in the first one. I think the song Dues Paid in Hell. There's a bunch of them that were just kind of, one-off ideas that we recorded in hopes of maybe making it blossom later on. But nothing, they were usually songs that didn't make the cut.
So I'm assuming at this point Atlantic drops you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
They let us go, and that wasn't a great feeling, but we were young still and pretty confident that, oh geez, well, we still got a shit ton of songs. All we got to do is record them and get back out there, and we'll land that major deal again.
Now, before we get to the Monster album, which I want to talk about it at length, what was your journey like from those years to when Monster happened?
Well, we kept playing Cliff and Mick and I, and with Mark Whites for a while, and then that kind of dissolved a little bit. The friendship stayed, but we were just like, oh, you know what? I think we're done with this. We've run this as far as we can. We realized that maybe Mark wasn't the right vocalist for us to pursue, and so we moved on. Now, I had known Pete Holmes from Black and Blue. The first band I was ever in was with Pete way back when we were 16 years old. So I had known Pete and been friends with him, and as his rise at Black and Blue, we'd seen each other on the road out there, and so we kept in touch. And Black and Blue, about the time Malice was fizzling out, Black and Blue had run their course also.
Yes, they did.
So Pete was available. We said, hey, you want to get together and kick some ideas around, see how it feels? And he was all for it. So we got into a studio, and it was like so easy, you know, so easy, as he's such a great drummer. And Mick and I had a bunch of ideas, and we put it to him, and wow, this was all fresh and new, and so it was really inspirational for us. So we wrote a few songs, I would say 10 songs or so. And then Jeff Scott Soto was in the mix in there. So we brought Jeff in to sing some rough demos. And we took it to Max, and Max goes, let's get in and record this. And so we're going, great, we're going to do some demos and stuff like that. So Max flew out from New York, and and we went in the studio with Jeff. We did 4 songs that were really good. And we figured, oh, this is slam dunk record deal material. Well, right about that time, the grunge thing went and flip-flopped on it, you know. And mind you, this wasn't as heavy as the Malice stuff. It was more, you know, a little bit more accessible, I'll say. And Jeff wrote some really good stuff on that. His vocal is just phenomenal. We wanted him really bad. But when we were kind of shopping it and realized, oh man, we're not landing a deal like that. And this grunge thing is what everybody wants to hear. And then Jeff went on his way, and we went on our way, and figured, oh well, I guess that's that. And then Monster did. We got Mark Isom to replace Jeff, and so we went out and did some shows around here, and it was a fun band to play in. But once again, we couldn't get arrested. You know, there was not a big interest in it. So we kind of set it down, and then we had sent demos out everywhere, and this little record company in Germany called us and said, hey, we want to release this, and we'll pay to finish the rest of the album. So we went into the studio and cut a few more tracks, and then Through the Eyes of the World came about.
Well, that was funny when you mentioned Jeff Scott Soto and you mentioned Mark Whites, and both those guys were kind of involved in the Eyes band.
Right,
was there a connection there that how'd that all happen?
You know, I'm not exactly sure about how or why it happened back in the day. They were just available, and we played with both of them. And and you know, like I said, both great vocalists. Great.
Sure. Yeah.
Mark Whites was a terrific singer, but he was one of those guys that for whatever reason, he never got like into like a major project. He was always on the periphery of demos or guest vocals, and he just never got into like that Soto type of realm of, you know.
Didn't he do that Americade stuff too?
Yes, he did.
Very good. That's where we first heard him, actually.
Oh, with Americade? Okay.
Yeah, one of our buddies had played, said, hey, you got to listen to this guy. And we're going, wow, that is
But even that Americade stuff I don't think it even actually got officially ever released. I mean, it's come out years after the fact.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So, you know, it just fizzled out. And when, you know, even when we released the Monster with Long Island Records in Germany, you put that together.
Yeah.
They sold a lot of records over there, and a lot of CDs, I should say. And you know, we're playing here, and we were trying to get it going more and more. And we just realized after and it hit about 1995, and we realized it's not going anywhere. You know, we're just kind of spinning our wheels. So we all kind of said, well, you want to go do another project or whatever you're going to do. So we just kind of fizzled out. So that was that. And then lo and behold, some more Japanese record company contacted us, and it's a whole bunch of people wanted to license it all over the place. So it made it out there, and you know, I'm always happy to hear somebody likes it, and you know, because we worked hard on it, but it's just kind of
it's a magnificent record. It's
thank you.
Great record, yeah.
I would like to think that, you know, because it was a lot of fun to play live, and the shows we did were well received, and it was just, I think it was just a case of being a little bit behind that curve that was happening at the time. So, you know, if we put that album out 5 years earlier, it might have something.
That was my next question. Is it fair to say that material was by and large recorded about 5 years before 96?
It was written before that.
Written, okay.
Yeah, but we didn't record it till later.
Okay.
And I'm not sure exactly the dates because it was kind of sporadic. We had done a few songs with Max, and then we did a couple more, and then we did a couple more to finish the album. So it was in stages.
There's one song on there I wanted to ask you about, a song called "Say You Will."
Yeah.
Phenomenal song. I mean,
Ah,
that was like, to me, like I listened to that song. If it would have came out in the hair band, if
yeah.
this band would have came out in that hair band era with that lineup, with that song, it would have been huge.
I think it's called Say You Care.
Say You Care. I'm
Say
sorry.
You Care. Yeah, no, that's all
Yes.
right. Yeah. And I believe it or not, I wrote that song on keyboards because I was messing around with a bunch of things. So I had this chorus that I had written on it, and I played it for Mick and Pete, and then we built it into what it was. And
Really? Okay.
yeah, so it went through a lot of different transformations. But then Pat Regan played the keyboard part on it.
Really?
Oh
Okay.
wow.
You know,
It's got a phenomenal hook. I mean, it's just a
yeah.
terrific song.
Mark would love to hear you say that because
Yeah.
he liked that chorus a lot. And
Oh, me too. I mean, I love the whole album, but that song always stood out to me. And when the album came out in '96, I couldn't help thinking, like, that lineup, the guys in the band, this song, like 90,
yeah,
90, even 91, when the scene was still kind of vibrant, it would have really been done so well on a major label.
might have had a better shot. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
yeah, funny.
But that album was, I thought, was at the time a very underground. It's become like a cult classic, I think, at this stage of the game.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I recently I was looking at old DVDs I have, and we have a live show we did at the Roxy around that time, and it's pretty fun to see us all back then, all young and spry and energetic,
Yeah.
playing the monster stuff.
Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention a 2012 album where the band put out something, quite honestly, I wasn't wild about, where there was a lot of re-recordings of old songs, couple of new songs. At that point in time, why was that a decision to do that as opposed to maybe not finding a proper frontman and doing a new album?
Fair question. At the time, we had been offered to do some festivals in Germany, the KIT Festival, I think it was called, Keep It True Festival in Germany,
Mm.
and then another gig in Switzerland and stuff like that. Jay, was really holding on to it as a vehicle to be
Hmm.
relevant again, I think. And he and Mick had been talking a lot and talking a lot, and they said, well, listen, if we're gonna, go over and do these shows, shall we do some shows here and stuff like that? And I was involved with my different career and personal life at the time, and I was going, I'm not ready to, chase that thing and go out. Let's go out in a van and tour again.
Right.
And so it wasn't as attractive. But some of the bigger festivals that was okay. I was thinking, okay, good, we'll go over and play those. But we had to put together the band that was really going to work.
Hmm.
And I said, who's going to sing James's parts? Somebody sends me this Ripper Van Owen tape, and I'm going, well, that guy can do it, but can we bring him in? I don't know.
Right.
Would he be interested in this?
Yeah.
So, like I said, Jay was, really pushing hard, and Mick was into it, and he said, "Come on, let's do it." And so they talked to Pete Holmes, and we were like, "Okay, well, it will sure be fun to play." So we got into the studio and we started playing the stuff, and oh man, it was so fun. Pete brought some new energy to the Malice songs and things, and we we played a couple local gigs here, and it was okay, but again, I didn't think vocals were cutting it. It
Hmm.
just flat out, they weren't cutting it. All due respect to everybody trying it, it's a hard part to do.
Yes.
So, I was less than enthusiastic, and they wanted to go up and play San Francisco, and I was kind of go, nah, I'm not. And they said, okay, are you okay if we bring in a different bass player? And I said, absolutely, do it, do it.
Mm.
So they did, and Bobby came in and played some shows, and they were they were able to do that. And then when we went over to Europe, that was 2011. Yeah, we went over and did the Keep It True festival, and that was with James Rivera was doing the vocal, and that was a fun time to go and do. But again, I didn't know if it had legs. It was was really a great experience, especially the Germany show. We hadn't played these songs for a large group for so long, and we were playing No Haven for the Raven, and the crowd was singing the chorus louder than the band was.
Wow.
And it was just such a wonderful feeling. I go, wow, that was pretty good because when we were over there before, we didn't play a song like Raven because that was we were playing against Slayer. We just had to put the pedal to the metal and go Hell Rider followed by Gods of Thunder followed by
Right.
So this was kind of fun to do that and get that kind of feedback that we hadn't before.
Wow.
But then when we came back there, to get to your point, a whole bunch of forces were saying, "Hey, you guys need to put out new product. We got a new product out there because you could sell a whole thing." It was renewed interest. So Jay was putting together this record deal, and they wanted to re-record some of our old stuff with James singing it and Pete playing drums. And then they had some new songs that Mick had written a couple and James had written a couple. I'm sorry, Jay had written a couple. I was like, okay, listen, if you guys are going to go out and do this, why don't you do it, have Bobby play on the new stuff that you guys are going to write, and I'll play all the songs that I wrote, So if we're going to do Stellar Masters and, Sinister and all that stuff, I'll play that. So that's what happened. I played the stuff that I wrote and Bobby played the stuff that he wrote. And that's the way it went. I didn't have any more involvement other than that. It was, they wanted to go, like I said, they wanted to go out and play some more. And so that was kind of a vehicle that they hoped would happen, but I don't think it ever did.
Mm.
It's a terrible decision when you're talking about heavy metal, because when you have a classic singer like Neil and a band wants to do a comeback, the fans do not want to hear a remake of the guy that they love. They want to hear a new identity and new songs, and maybe songs that'll, rope them in. Not somebody trying to remake something they love, because that's how heavy metal fans are.
Yeah.
They're beloved to that. They'll accept you changing the band with the lineup and putting out a new album, but don't mess with that. And that was, whoever made that decision within the band that's a fatalistic decision.
When the album was finished and we were over at Mick's place and Max Norman was there, and Mick said, "Well, here's the new album." And so Max takes it and he goes, "Well, let's put this on and see how you have ruined my masterpiece."
That's right. Well, he's right. He's right. And that's nothing on Rivera. I mean, who I think is a pretty decent singer, but it's just as we all know, Bruce Dickinson never remade the first two Maiden albums. Right. It's just a template of heavy metal and heavy metal mentality, and the way fans in general treat that stuff. And I myself, when I heard that there was new stuff in the pipeline, and then I saw it was remakes of the stuff with Neil, I was like, oh no, no.
Yeah, well, there wasn't a lot of energy behind it, really.
No.
I think it was a short.
That'll sap the energy out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
sometimes bands need to really go back to their hardcore fans and get like a little bit of input,
Well, and it'd be wise to do that within a short time perspective too.
Right.
When you put a decade or more too.
Well, that too, right.
Between things, it's a little hard to gain that same energy. I remember when we were writing Malice, we were doing Malice, we were performing Malice. I was going, this is a young man's deal,
Well, it is, yes.
I don't know if we can do this when we're 20 years older than this,
Right.
And truth be told, not really. I mean, there are bands who write stuff that has longevity that they can do again, and there are great bands that can hit it hard. Metallica being one of them, can hit it hard and still do it, But it's tough. I remember when I was relearning the songs to go back out for the 2011 festival thing, and I was a different player now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning my bass parts. Going, God dang, man, I had to really work out to get my thing to shape again, because it's a real marathon. Some songs are busy. It's busy in a lot of notes. So, but it was a great experience anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it was always the saying that all the great hard rock and heavy metal bands and songs all came out of guys in their 20s and early 30s.
Yeah,
And it's really, if you look back, it's the truth. It really is a young man's game.
yeah, yeah. You have to be in shape, and you got to have. We
It's
had a lot
demanding.
of anger. That I think that came across in
Right,
Mount. We were
right. And
very, it was dysfunctional,
hmm
and so there was a lot of anger in there, and
oh yeah, and you need that, right? That's why you
that was
right.
fuel. That was fuel. I think it worked at the time. And even it might have been a flash in the pan, so to speak, or uh, at that. But it was fun when we did it for sure.
Well, there were a lot of flashes in the pan with 80s metal, but there was some that really have staying power, and I think Malice was one of those bands. You
Yeah.
did put out that signature album that will always be there in the hearts of heavy metal fans across the world.
Yeah, I like to think so, but you're not sure how time is going to treat it as it goes on and on.
Mm.
I hope we didn't desecrate it by getting out there and trying to play in 2011 because it was a different look and different band by that
Yeah,
time.
no, I think
Yeah.
people have gotten past that, and the Monster album too is it's not a Malice album, but it had a couple of real signature members from
Yeah,
Malice in it.
yeah,
And it really would have been the hair band album that Malice never made if you were together in 90 and 91.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
it was of that quality it really was. I mean, I just re-listened to it the other day, and the songs were so good. I mean, it was a
yeah.
really, really strong album.
We were trying to make a hard hitting, a high energy album. That was what the
Hmm.
objective was, just and it had its place.
Hmm.
Well,
That's any more?
I've run out of questions. I mean, I could keep going, but
In an effort to keep it not too
right,
too
right.
crazy. But Mark, we appreciate the walk down memory lane tonight. I know Tom had a lot of good questions, and I'm glad he got to the game because
Really good
I
questions.
sat here
Yeah,
and
they're well researched. I appreciate that because
yeah, no, I mean I sat here and I learned a few things, so that's good. But no, we appreciate your time tonight. And as you said, we talked about it a little bit earlier. You said you're kind of still involved in music, not really doing anything as far as recording, but maybe just a little bit of doing it for fun, right?
well, not so much a live performance, but I am doing recording. That's what I'm
Okay.
doing with my buddies up north. Like I said, they'll send some tracks down and say, "Hey, throw something down on it." So we do that, and it stimulates. It's real fun to go back in and go, "Oh, this is
Yeah,
this is cool. Get to use those juices again." And
sure. Yeah,
so,
great. All
How are the
right.
bass chops these days?
not bad. It takes me a little bit to warm up into it, but after an hour or so, I can get the fluidity back, and but it's in the way the brain's thinking about
Yeah,
composition too. It's that's something when you're doing it all the time, you get sharper and sharper and sharper and sharper. So when I step away from it for
yeah.
periods of time, uh, it takes a little bit more to get into.
Because you always had in those Malice albums a little more tricky chops than a lot of the bass players had that I always appreciated.
I always like I said, the bands I mentioned earlier that I liked good rhythm sections. I was always into counter melodies, when you're just
Hmm.
not following the guitar player around, but you're playing counter melodies to
Right,
it.
I like that too.
Gives it a
Yeah.
little bit more depth and a spread
Yes.
within that. So, I tried to do as much of that as we could in a hard rock heavy metal band,
Hmm.
but some of it comes through, and I think it tends to make it a little bit broader than just like I said, a bass player just following the guitar player.
Hmm. No, I like that. I mean, you don't want to be Billy Sheehan and walk all over everybody, but you
I
know,
got nothing bad to say about Billy Sheehan,
no,
but
no, not at all. But I mean, I mean, Billy in his best spot was when it was just a three-piece band, so
yeah,
he was able to do that. But
Winery Dogs was pretty fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I follow just about anything Portnoy does. I kind of follow it. He's kind of like that
Oh, really?
perfect for me. So
Nice.
Mark's a big fan.
Yeah, I
yeah.
was I was I was a Dream Theater guy like from and way back, and the new album I really enjoyed. So
Oh,
yeah,
love it.
yeah.
I'm really loving that one. I love the Flying Colors stuff too. You know, I think Dave LaRue is probably the
Very-
bass.
very
Oh, you know, I
Poppy.
saw them in Manhattan.
Yeah,
So on the first album I saw, they were tremendous.
you're one of the rare people. We saw them out here too.
I know they only played a bunch, like maybe like about 10 shows total.
handful of gigs. Yeah.
Yeah,
We were so lucky to see them out here in Ventura Theater, and oh my God, they were good.
they were great. I saw them in Manhattan on that first tour, and yeah,
This was
tremendous.
the third album. This was the third album. They
Okay.
had all
Wow.
that material to pull from.
Yeah,
And, boy, they were good.
Wow.
My smile muscles hurt at the end because I was just laughing. Going,
yeah. LaRue was that's a tremendous band. The singer's really good too. I didn't realize how good he was live too.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I only got to see Liquid Tension Experiment. I never saw Flying Colors.
Oh, and there's Winery Dogs, and you can see.
I saw
Well,
them.
I've seen them a couple of times
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, I saw them in Manhattan also on the first tour
Yeah.
Right.
at BB King's, the very first album. That was a great band. Yeah,
Great band, great songs.
yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Cool.
All right.
Cool. All right. Well, Mark, we appreciate it.
One
again.
quick little edit. Maybe
Yeah.
you want to do it. I'm not sure if you want to, but Bane is pronounced Bane, not Ben.
Oh, Behn. Oh,
Bain
Behn.
like rain.
Okay.
Oh,
Behn.
okay.
Mark Behn.
It's
Sorry
a German
about
spelling
that.
of being. BAIN is Irish, and BANE is English, and BEHN is German.
Ah,
Ah,
okay.
interesting.
More than
Okay.
you want to know about it, but there you go.
Well, it's funny because I usually ask that before we start, but I
He
thought
always,
I
you know,
thought
it's
I
funny.
had it.
He always, even if your name is John Smith, they'll let you pronounce it
Pronounce
John
Smith,
Smith,
right?
right?
Do you
And
want
tonight
John
he
or
didn't.
Jonathan, or I thought I had it. Oh well.
I didn't want to say anything at the top. but
That's so
if you're-
priceless
if
because
you're
I'm
gonna go
telling
back
you,
in
we've done almost 100 shows. He'll ask every single person. Tonight he didn't.
Funny. Well, guys,
All
it's
right.
been a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun talking with you.
Same here, Mark. It was a
Really
pleasure. It
appreciate
was
it.
really.
Best of luck to you. Reach out
Thank-
anytime you want.
Thank you.
I
Once
definitely will.
again, Mark Behn from Malice. Thank you.
You got it.
Thanks very much.
Take
Mark.
care.
Thanks,
All right.
guys. See you.
Bye.
Bye.